Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be tying up a Copper John variant. I call it the Evergreen John. And to get this started, we are going to use an Arex hook FW561. It's a traditional nymph hook. It's a barbless and size 12. And for the bead, we're going to be using Saluda beads, Mottled olive, a 3.3 millimeter. It's a Countersunk bead. We'll get this situated in the vise. And be using a little bit of lead wire for weight. This is from Hairline. It is the 0.015. I get about 10 wraps on here. Snip the rest away or break it away. And get everything snugged up, nice and tight. Don't want to leave any loose ends. Copper Johns need to have a nice smooth profile, nice smooth body. So get all those ends down from the lead wire. And after you get everything nice and snugged up and pushed together, I move on to using some super glue. And you can use whatever super glue you have on hand. I prefer to use Zap-A-Gap. I just put a little dab right between the lead wire and the bead, and then just squish the lead wire into the bead. And for thread, we'll be using the Flysmith GSP in 20 denier and the color Chartreuse. And I'll start my thread just behind the lead wire. Work my way back. Snip my excess free. Once I feel it's nice and tight. You want to watch your hook point. You don't clip your thread. I've done it before. It's a pain in the butt. Now we use a little bit of dubbing for the tail. I like to use this to splay out my Biots. This is Wapsi dubbing blend and the color Bluegrass. This is the Antron. Here's a closer look at the color. I just do a very, very small dubbing ball. I do this with my stoneflies as well. I don't believe this dubbing technique was a part of the original Copper John recipe, but I just like doing it for any pattern that has Biot tails. Got it caught there a little bit. Just peel things out and then reform it. Tighten that noodle back up. Oh, almost got it again. I know, buddy. And for the tail, I'm using Goose Biots from Crosswater Creek Outfitters out here in Lafayette, California. It's a newer shop that opened recently. They got a pretty nice selection of gear and materials, so if you're in the area, go check them out. And the Biots, I go for about half of the length of the shank And that's where I put them on, try to keep them kind of short. Now I'll clip these waist ends of the Biots right up against the edge of the back of the lead wire. Kind of flush things up a little bit. Clean this back end up. I really could probably live without doing this because I'm going to add some wire and then I'm going to swap threads to build the body and taper. For the wire, I'm using the Flysmith copper wire, 2 different colors. It's a light green and a dark green. I don't believe I have the names of the colors right. I need to look those up. I get those started on the far side of the hook. I tie them in just behind the lead wire. Get them nice and fastened down. Once they look well fastened, I work my way up to the bead quickly. I don't worry about making my wraps sit between the wraps of lead wire, and then half hitch, and then snip this free, and then start with my next thread, which is Flysmith 144 denier thread, the color green. And I start this just behind the bead, get a fine layer down over the lead wire, kind of fill in the gaps very minimally. And I want to build up a taper from the tail up to the lead wire, and then I'll build up a taper even more after that. I'm flattening out my thread as I go. Every time it cords up, I flatten it out to really even things out. I'll take a look here, make sure things are looking smooth. I'm liking the way things are looking. So now I can start covering more of the lead wire now that my taper is built up to the same level of the lead wire. Stop to take another look around the body, make sure things are looking good. This is when rotary function vices come in handy. Now here my thread is quartered up. You see how it looks, and I'll flatten it out and show you how it looks. It's easy to tell the difference. It gives it a flat sheen look. And you'll see as I wrap it, you'll be able to see the flatness of the thread. It's a bit more distinct. So I'll build a bit more of a body and a taper. Take another look. I'm liking the way it's looking, so I'll tie this off and then it'll get cut away. And I will tie back on my 20 denier GSP. right behind the bead. Snip the tag. Clean things up just a tiny bit. And then I can tie or put a half hitch in right here. And I'll set my bobbin in my bobbin cradle and work the wire. Now, having a smooth body is key for these copper johns. When you're wrapping the wire, it just comes out much cleaner looking. Now here I want to get my fingernail up against the wire and then the skin of my thumb and drag both of them along the wire, and that will get those micro kinks that may be in your wire. It may look fine, but this really fine tunes the wire before you start to wrap it on your hook. You probably only need a 6 or 7 inch length of each piece of wire to do this, but I cut off about 12 inches. I plan on doing a couple more of these, and it does make it easier to get a hold of the wire when you're wrapping it. If you have small gaps between your wire wraps, you can go ahead and do like I did and use your fingernail to kind of squish things together, like right here. Sometimes they kind of wander apart, and it's okay to just use your fingernail. Be careful that you don't push so hard right into the hook point though. Ask me how I know. And once you got about 2 hook eye lengths between the wire and the bead, you can go ahead and tie it off. I like to tie off from the underside of the fly. And I get quite a few wraps. Make sure this is nice and secure. Once I got quite a few wraps on there, I'll grab a hold of the wire and just kind of give it a little tension test and see if it moves on me. And if it seems pretty stable, I'll go ahead and snip the excess away. I like to use my fingernail, or you can come in with another tool and smooth out this tag end of the wire. And then I'll cover the rest up with my thread. Once it's good and covered, we're moving on to the wing case. For the first material, I'm using Flysmith Fly Film Shitik, the color olive. I cut that strip into about a 1.5 millimeter width. And I center it on the top of the hook. And I start my first wrap midpoint of that thorax area. Work my way back and then work my way forward, and then I like to check the centering of this material, and what I do is I just fold it over to the hook eye, and if it looks like it's sitting right over the hook eye, it's pretty centered. And it looks pretty good, so I'll finish wrapping this. And then move on to the next wing case material, which is GatorBack in the color green. And I do color this GatorBack with a Sharpie, a dark green Sharpie. There is a textured side and a non-textured side on the GatorBack, and I color the textured side. Here's a look at it colored, and here is a look at the non-textured side. You see it's got a shininess to it, and here's the textured side. Now I'm going to tie this in with the shiny side up. The same thing, start my first wrap at the midpoint of my thorax. Checking my centering as I go. Be sure to not wrap too far back into the wire wraps. Once it looks centered, we can move on to the Peacock. This Peacock Herl is bright green. I got this from my local Bass Pro Shop. Now I'm going to get this started at that midpoint of the thorax, and there's longer barbules and shorter barbules on this Peacock Herl, and I started with the shorter barbules against the hook shank, and then kind of mash them down. Sorry for the view, I'll get it closer. There we go. And then we get a whip finish here, and toss my bobbin in the bobbin cradle and start to do some wrapping. And I don't mean wugga wugga. Sorry. Okay, get this going. Looks nice and full, a nice full thorax. And I start my first tie down point on this peacock on the near side of the hook. You get a couple wraps on there, and then I'll give it a little bit of a rotation, and then get another tie down point. Rotate it one more time to get one more tie down point. And what this does is it really anchors it down in a few places and ensures that it's not going to come loose. And then break the excess free. This here is a Partridge pelt that I got from Fly Fish Food. I'll be using these feathers right here. I believe they're the shoulder feathers. I want to strip away this fluffy stuff. Here we go. Now I'm left with what I want, and I'm going to pull some of these, preen some of these feathers back to get my legs going. And what I want is about the width of the thorax. So I'm going to put it up against my thorax and get kind of a measurement here. So it's looking a little bit big. So I'm going to preen some of those feathers back forward. And we'll take another look. That looks better. And now that center piece can be snipped away. Now preen those feathers forward. And set it in place, like so. Now what I like to do is use my thumb and apply pressure right where I want it, and come with a loose wrap around that stem. situate the stem, another loose wrap, and then switch thumbs while maintaining pressure. And what this does is just keeps those partridge fibers in place. Otherwise, you kind of fight them a little bit. It's not completely necessary to maintain thumb pressure the way I did. But then I grab that stem to adjust the length of my legs. I'm looking for some that are just about the length of the hook gap, but these are a little bit long, and I don't want them to be about as long as to where it meets the tail. I want them to be just shy of the tail. It's looking better. So this is what I mean here, is I want those legs to be lined up with the hook gap, the bottom right there. And I like where it's at, so I'm going to go ahead and tie off my GatorBack. And while I'm doing this, I'm also tying off my Partridge a bit more. I get 2 good wraps, pull the GatorBack out of the way, tie my Partridge off a little bit more, pull my Partridge out of the way, get 1 more wrap just around the bead, and then snip the Partridge out of the way. Now I like to double check my GatorBack just to make sure it's snug. I'll give it a little tug. All right, it's not going anywhere. I can snip this out of the way now. Otherwise, I would give it a few more wraps. And then I can give it another wrap or 2 just for extra security. And then fold my Shitik material over and tie it down while making sure everything is lined up and centered. Looks good. Give it a few wraps on top, a few wraps in front, and then that can be snipped away. I like to build up a bit of a collar here. Usually I swap out threads for the collar just so it takes a little less time, but I just kept this thread. I was happy with the collar. I give it a whip finish. And then I guess I wasn't happy with that. I needed an extra whip finish. Extra security. That way you know your flies are durable, folks. And snip that away. And I will be using Solores Thin Hard UV glue. I really like this resin. It has some nice properties to it. It's not too viscous. It's not too watery. I think it's like kind of right in between, right where I like it at. start it right on the wire because I like the glue trail to go from the wire up to the bead. I'm not sure if that's how it was originally done, but I just like to do it that way. Kind of carve things out and train the glue so it goes right where you want it to go. Just using a bodkin doing this. And then zap it. The material list and the steps can be kind of daunting for this fly, but once you get the hang of it, it's a really easy fly, and I think you learn a lot of great techniques doing this fly. And there it is, everyone, the Evergreen John. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you really liked it and you want to see more content like this, give me a follow and maybe even share it. Until then, keep your bobbins loaded.